good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Along with Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Coming up, we have a couple of special guests. At 6:20, we'll be joined by the head boys basketball coach of Wausau East High School, Dan Garrett. And then at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest for this week from Marathon High School, senior guard Drew Love. Well, number one, I guess if you have a Thursday game the last couple of weeks, it's been looking iffy. Last week was pretty nasty, and weather does not look good the next couple of days.
Yeah, going home on the watching a little bit of TV before I came here, watching the news. It was all over the bottom. I had all these postponements. I just imagined some of the games being done. Kind of nice for student-wise to get out of school and then go play the game and start your Christmas break, right. But not going to happen.
Well, let's talk about what's been going on. We'll start off with high school boys basketball tonight. Wisconsin Valley Conference, a couple of nights of conference activity. Last Friday, Marshfield in a huge game defeated DC Everest 63-60. Luke Lemoyne, 18 points for the Tigers. Casey Studeman, 18. Marcus Hall, 16 for DC Everest. Also last Friday, Wausau East rolled past Merrill 86-70. Jesse Napgezik had 25. Jaden Garrett had 19. Charlie Cayley, 15. Braden Pieper and Tyson Glish, 17. Troy Moots, 13 for Merrill. Stevens Point rolled past Wausau West 57-29. Jaron Suze had 15. Ariel Council 13 for the Panthers. Griffin Lang led Wausau West with 6 points. And Rapids lost a non-conference game against Holman 67-57. Then last night, Marshfield stays undefeated. Marshfield rolled past Wausau East 80-49 for the Lumberjacks. Jesse Napgezik had 15 points. Isaac Rosbadowski and Charlie Cayley 13. DC Everest bounced back from their loss to Marshfield, winning in Stevens Point 76-59. Cohen Preby and Marcus Hall had 14. Connor McFarland and Cade Felch, 12 for a balanced DC Everest attack. Grant Chardonnay had 23 for the Panthers. In a non-conference game, Merrill defeated Rhinelander 55-33. Tyson Glish 17, Braden Pieper 15, and Wisconsin Rapids defeated Antigo last night 66-54. So, Jeff, right now, I guess the biggest result was that Marshfield win against DC Everest at the DC Everest Fieldhouse last Friday. In Marshfield right now, the team to beat in the Valley.
Yeah, as in any conference race throughout the season, it's that matter of consistency. It's not easy to do because opponents, coaches, they know each other well. These kids grow up playing against each other. They have an idea of what's going to happen in those basketball games as they participate in them. So it's going to come down to playing two halves, fighting through injuries, staying out of foul trouble, and doing the things that each team does well. And Marshfield, it's got to feel good going into their Christmas break because they don't play till after Christmas here with that tight one against Everest, and then they turn around and get another one against East. So sitting in the driver's seat, it looks like their non-conference schedule tested them. They're only at 500 overall, but 3-0 leading the top of the conference. Everest, I felt, bounced back well against Spash. That's going over to Spash is never an easy place to play. And to go over there and get a 76-59 win last night is I think a big deal, especially after you've been battle tested. You want to get back on there, and they're getting their production from Hall and Preby and a couple other guys stepping up with that double-digit point production.
And real interesting, but before you continue with Everest, again, to see 4 players between 12 and 14 points, it does look like that this version of the DC Everest Evergreens new head coach is a little more balanced. I mean, last season it really was Marcus Hall carrying them on his shoulders the entire season. Marcus Hall is still a fantastic player, but this balance is going to help DCE in the long run, isn't it?
Yep. From a scouting standpoint of opposing coaches, it opens them up for so many more things. And sometimes when a person's able to get score a ton of points and it stands out, sometimes they get classified that they don't pass the ball enough. And I've watched Marcus Hall play, not a ton of times, but enough to see that that's one of the best assets of his game. I think he'll get the double. He'll find guys open, and when you can add that as an element of your game, it really makes a difference in how your team does. And they're sitting at 5-2 overall and 2-1 in the conference, hanging around there. For East, I thought a nice win against Merrill there on
the road.
On the road that was last Friday. Got good point production. Won that one by double digits, and the guard play is standing out as something that's giving them a balanced attack with the Kaylee's inside adding something to it. So I thought a nice win, and then obviously they'll have to bounce back from the Marshfield game, which is never an easy opponent to go against.
And it looks like what we expected in the Valley. I think Marshfield and DC Everest, the teams that are expected at the beginning of the season to maybe be the cream of the crop. And then after that, almost anybody can beat anybody. You see Wausau East beating Merrill. You saw Merrill winning on the road at Wausau West. You had Stevens Point getting a win against West before falling to DC Everest. Merrill bounced back with a nice non-conference win last night. Rapids won against Antigo on the road last night in a non-conference game. I forgot to mention as well, Wausau West played at Appleton North last night and fell 55-40. Right now, the Warriors just struggling offensively, but it looks like, again, from 3 through 7 in the WVC, anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, it's very competitive. Just looking at Spash's record, I think they're still trying to find their niche, kind of waiting to see what's going to show up around there. As the start of the season was talked about their youth. Well, eventually that's going to run out, and you're going to have to figure out where that leadership and experience comes from. For Rapids, Jungworth and Matthews kind of make them go, and they're hanging out in a little bit of a non-conference area right now, getting the conference bye and playing Holman and Antigo in their last 2 games. And we've said that about West. They always play hard, play great defense, and kind of the streakiness of their offense lays into how they get the production in their games. And if they're not knocking their shots down, sometimes it can be a long time. Look, when earlier in the season when they're playing against Newman, they're right in there going punch for punch, and the shots were getting drilled. So that's, you want that point production, you want to know where it's going to come from consistently. I think Warriors are still looking for that a little bit.
Great Northern Conference. Mosinee continues to be a team to keep an eye on. In their only game was last Friday in the past week. They defeated Rhinelander 67-53. Davin Stoffel, 14 points, 12 rebounds. Landon Tomer, 14 points, 9 boards. Aiden Shaughnessy, 12 points as well for Mosinee. Also last Friday in the GNC, Medford rolled past Tomahawk 88-33. Tanner Raby led 4 players in double figures for the Raiders with 23 points, and Lakeland defeated Antigo 43-31. Will Fortier 14 for Lakeland, Mason Gray 14 for Antigo. Last night in the GNC, the team that did not play a conference game last Friday was very impressive. Northern Pines rolling Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. Boy, the margin really jumped out, 79-40. Pines over Whitburn. Nolan Lurvey at 20, Ryan Bench 16, Griffin Stemke and Gabe Smith 15 each for a very balanced Eagles attack. Medford earned a nice non-conference win against Altoona, 56-54. Charlie Kleist, 18. Zach Rudolph, 17 for Medford. Tomahawk defeated Marion, 41-33 last night, and Lakeland over Hayward, 58-26. Right now, Mosinee continues to play exceptionally well. Medford looks to be very, very strong as well. And Northern Pines, that win against Whitburn really jumped out as well. The big 3 we talked about last week definitely look like they're still the teams at the top in the GNC.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of watching the Merrillwood South. They're all going to beat each other up eventually at the top because somebody's going to take a loss. I mean, Medford goes out, their conference, their loss has been outside the conference, and they've played exceptionally well with Baumgartner and Robbie and Kleist putting up double-digit scores, significantly beat Altoona last night. Obviously, they were supposed to win against Tomahawk on Friday. Mosinee unblemished at 7-0 and 3-0 in the conference. Jerschle and Stoffel continue to put up big numbers as kind of a 1-2 punch, but that supporting cast of those other guys, they really know their roles well and aren't afraid to step up and fill in those spots as needed. And then Pines, the only blemish on their record is getting beat by a last-second shot in the first game of the season against Newman Catholic. So impressive win, I think, against Wittenberg, because they're a team that can throw you around physically and match up with you. But you talk about point production, and you mentioned it with Everest. How do you stop a team where you got 4 guys that can put up 15-plus points on any given night, maybe even all do it in the same night? That's a lot of production out of 4 guys, and very difficult to guard and scout, but that seems to be a tendency on some of these strongest teams.
I also want to say congratulations to Davin Stoffel. Today, he signed his national letter of intent to play football at South Dakota State, which is a powerhouse in the Division I FCS series. So he will continue in his athletic endeavors at South Dakota State. Merrillwood South. It was one of those weeks where you had massive conference matchups both last Friday and last night. Last Friday, Auburndale made a statement. They defeated Newman Catholic, previously undefeated, 57-49. Alex Wilfart, 17. Caden Weinferter and Mason White Eagle, 13 each for the Eagles. Isaac Seidel had 22. Connor Kroc, 12 for the Cards, who played that game without Mason Prey. Marathon game that we had right here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 last Friday night. Rolled past Stratford 60-35. Grant Warren 17, Drew Love 14, Tyler Underwood 11 for the Red Raiders, Ashton Wrench 12 for the Tigers. Edgar, after trailing by 5 at the half at Wisconsin Rapids Assumption, outscored the Royals 36-18 in the second half and won 60-47. Brett Baumgartner had 18, Leighton Schuett 16 for Edgar, Ryan Shaw 23 for Assumption. And then last night, some massive games. Stratford edged Edgar 45-44. Braden Schiller 19 points for the Tigers as they snap a 3-game losing streak. Auburndale continues to play very well after that early stub toe against Marathon. They beat Assumption last night 64-36. Alex Wilfart 20, Lucas Yeski 11, Nick Lieberg 11 for Assumption. And then the game, last but not least, a game that we had right here on Bull Falls Radio last night. In overtime, Newman knocked off previously undefeated Marathon 73-69. Just a fantastic high school basketball game. Isaac Seidel, 27 points. Connor Kroc was huge for Newman. He scored 18. Mason Prey, 16, as he returned from his knee injury. Grant Warren was massive for Marathon with 28. Drew Love played very well for Marathon with 14. Tyler Underwood had 10. I mean, you look at it already. Everybody's lost already.
Yeah.
Got Auburndale, Marathon, and Newman all with one loss. They beat each other up already. Stratford gets a much-needed win against Edgar. I mean, this conference is really something.
And a handful of those losses of when those three out of the big teams, two of them play each other. They're always at home. One's always getting that one game at home, so they're losing the road one at least right now if you take the loss.
That's true.
One of even their overall record, 7-1 out of Auburndale, 6-1 out of Marathon, 7-1 out of Newman. So it looks like that whole conference I'd analyze. Those are going to probably be your 3 at the top, but the other 3 that are 4, 5, and 6 have a chance to be spoilers and surprises and take one down. That's I think where that separation is probably going to come out of the conferences. When is that loss going to come? Because that's going to make a difference. But again, Auburndale played very well against Newman Catholic, won that game at their place last Friday. They sent a statement, I think, a little bit because Assumption has been being more competitive and hasn't gotten kind of knocked around as much, and that's a pretty significant win when you hold a team to 36 points with 2 halves of basketball. Marathon, I think, continues to impress beyond, the guys they have on the court are Coach Jacobson gets a lot out of them, and those kids lay a lot out there, and I think you wouldn't always look at it as basketball. I mean, Warren's big and got a couple other guys out there that do a really good job, but you're not thinking that they're, these studs, you'd call them. So they play really well, and I think they do a great job as a team and a program, and that's holding up as making them one of the top teams in that conference. And Newman, had to fight through their first injury without having Mason Prey against Auburndale, and he bounced back to play last night. But I think they're also potent enough with the different types of players they have, and you see other guys continue to step up in their roles, and I think that's just going to be a fun one to watch play out, and Edgar can play well with their sophomores changing over to juniors this year. Stratford, I think, is in a little bit unfamiliar territory. They're kind of finding their niche yet, and I think they're going to win some tight ones because Coach Schmidt does a good job with them, and they're going to lose some tight ones just because they may not be as skilled as some of those other teams in the conference.
And talking to Coach Jacobson last night, he also said the fact that Merriwood North is better. That the entire Merriwood is really good because the Merriwood North is better as well. As Athens continues to impress. Athens had a couple of wins Friday. They knocked off Rib Lake 67-53. 4 Blue Jays in double figures, led by Connor Sheen with 20. And then last night, they rolled past Phillips 69-41. Andy Scher had 23. Aiden Yankee 14. Also in the Merriwood North last Friday, Prentice 77, Abbotsford 61. Shawamigan knocked off Phillips 50-40. And then last night, Prentice beat Shawamigan 57-54 in a significant game in that league. And Rib Lake rolled past Abbotsford 76-49. But Athens is really, saw them play against Newman a few weeks back. This is a team, and they went into Stratford and they won. I mean, this is a team that is really impressing right now.
Yeah, they have athleticism, the physicality to them. when you can go up against the team that's hanging behind you in the conference and get a nice double-digit win, especially in that little Cracker Jack box up in Red Lake.
Right,
It's a good win, and they pulled that one out 67-53, and then they turn around. Phillips is in the mix there, and defeat them by well over double digits, and getting two guys that can put 20 points in the basket on a different given night between Yankee and I think Sheehan, however you say that. So I think that bodes well for what it is for the end of the season. And again, we talked about the final thing when these games have counted as conference games over the years, the last years that they've done that, it makes a big difference in not falling asleep in any game if you're trying to stay tight in a conference race.
And CWC North, a good week for both Northland Lutheran and Wisconsin Valley Lutheran. On Monday, Northland Lutheran beat Rochelle 71-63, and then last night, Northland edged Nakusa 65-62. So a couple of wins for Northland, and Wisconsin Valley Lutheran on Monday defeated Tri-County 44-39. Kiel Zulsdorf had a big night with 19 points and 12 rebounds. And for Northland Lutheran, I'd love to say who was great for them, but they don't post any of their numbers. So if you have a great week, you got to let us know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you said this before. It sounds like an echo. Yeah, I don't know. Again, if you can win a couple. Well, first off, just for them in their schedule, they always seem to be so sporadic in terms of when they're getting games in and when they're playing. And again, those teams are off until some are off till after Christmas break. I think Northern Lutheran doesn't play till January 3rd again, so it's going to get sporadic again. But winning 2 games within a week is good, and they're sitting at 3-1 overall, 1-0 in the conference. And for these smaller schools to get a couple nice little wins like that, that's a good week.
And finally, CWC East, we mentioned Whitburn last night had that loss against Pines. But last Friday in a big conference game, they were able to win at Menominee Indian 64-60. Mason Meverton 22, Michael Miller 15 for the Chargers. Obviously, you don't want to lose by 39 against a team like Pines, who is as good as they are, but bottom line is, as a coach, I know that those conference games are the ones that you really keep a focus on, right?
Yeah, that's where you're going to be in the mix of things, kind of predicate some of your playoff standings on, and just the things that are going to matter is that conference rivalry and knowing the opposition. So I think you're going to wear your hat a little more heavy on those than you are in some of those non-conference games, unless they become big for playoff significance at the end of the year.
We'll delve a little bit more into the boys basketball scene a little bit later on, look ahead to what these teams have around the holidays later in the program. Again, we have 2 guests coming up at 7 o'clock from Marathon. There's senior guard Drew Love, off to a very good start this year. And coming up next, he's already here. We like that. We don't have to worry about our guests getting here. The head boys basketball coach at Wausau East High School, Dan Garrett. He'll be joining us coming up next. He's Jeff Gress. I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and very happy to welcome our head coach guest for this week from Wausau East High School, head coach of the Lumberjacks, Dan Garrett. Coach, I know it's not a long trip over from Wausau East, but we do appreciate you coming on by.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about it, because, this is obviously very much a different team for your squad. Now, last season, you had a lot of experience, a lot of size. This year, a little less experience, a little less size, but it looks like it's been a decent start for your team. You had a nice win on the road in the conference against Merrill last week. Ran into a bit of a buzzsaw that Marshfield is early this season, but generally, what's your feeling about the early part of the season?
I think we're playing well right now. Last night wasn't an indication of how well we're playing, but if you would have saw us Friday night, you would have said, they're playing really well. We defended Friday night, and we didn't defend very well last night. I'm kind of surprised with a little bit of our sophomores. They've been scoring at a really high rate right now. Jesse Nepgezik's had a really good start to the season. Averaging, I think, 17 a game right now. Jaden has done a good job as well. So has Charlie Cayley as sophomores. To kind of lead us in scoring is not necessarily normal. And especially having that experienced team last year, I was able to rely on a lot of those seniors, and I knew what I was going to get from those guys. And when you're dependent on younger guys, it depends on the night, right? And what you're going to get. So very happy with the start. I think we could easily have won a couple of those games that we lost early in the game in the year 2. But happy with where we are.
And Coach, how hard is it to transition? I mean, people that don't coach or just kind of watch say it's so easy, and you're switching up from having a big...
Are you saying it's not easy to coach? I mean, I've sit here and it looks pretty darn easy for where I sit.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not easy.
It is not easy.
No, when you go through when you go through it, it's not an easy life. It's not. It's always rewarding. It's always fun, but I don't think it's easy. But my point being is, you're out of the game and now it's so hard. Well, no, now I don't have to. I don't have
worry
anything.
about it now.
Nobody's holding me to anything now.
I know.
Before you had pressure. My question is though, how hard is it to transition from one style to the next? Because when you got a definite huge post player, now you're more probably guard strong with the guards that you have, and then to boot, you graduate guys that seem to log a lot of minutes, but then you still come back and you're still youthful with a lot of the guys you have. You don't have a heavy upper class.
I'm one of those coaches that I will tailor what I'm doing to the talent that I have. I don't try to fit them into the box that I want them to be in. So last year, we had 6'9", 6'5", 6'5", and we had to slow it down, for those guys, and we were a little bit successful with that. And I want to play fast paced. That's how I want to coach. So this team this year is kind of my identity. We're able to put pressure on teams. We're able to pick up full court and cause some havoc there. So it makes it interesting, right? When you graduate some guys, and then you can play a different style, and then maybe you graduate those guys, and you can kind of play another style. So it keeps it fresh too. So I wouldn't say it's difficult, but at times, this summer I was like, man, I don't know how we're going to score. Looking at our roster, we haven't had issues scoring so far. It's been stopping people. So we're working towards being better there.
Yeah, you look like you're talking.
I just had one other quick thing off the guys that you're talking about. How are you pleased with? I watch them, and what I've seen, either when I've gotten to go watch in person or through the computer, when you can click it on and get there. That's the best you can do that night. They play hard. And they're on the ball for loose balls, rebounds. They're diving on the place, and even guys that not always showing up in a definitive stat category. They just seem to be going hard. Are you pleased with that? Is that
absolutely
is that something
absolutely
that is a constant? Like we're pushing. Let's get everywhere.
And coming into this year, we're kind of coming in with a chip on our shoulder, right? We look at the preseason stuff, and when you're picked second to last or last, you come with the chip on your shoulder. So we tell our kids, you got to get every loose ball. If there's an opportunity to take a charge, you got to step in and take a charge. Those are momentum changing play or game changing plays, and momentum changing plays as well. So I've been happy with our effort. We just got to be a little bit better defensively moving forward.
So you're saying that you do pay attention to what the media says?
I think we all look at it a little bit, right? And for me, I'm the type of person that if I need a little bit of motivation, I'll go and look and see what people are saying, and that'll be my chip that I use.
Again, we're talking to Dan Garrett, the head boys basketball coach at Wausau East High School, here on Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Let's talk about these young guys. You mentioned some names, and you said Jesse Napgezik has really been. He's been putting up some really impressive numbers.
Really well.
Can you talk about what he is? What allows him to do this at this level so quickly? What does he do well on the court?
Well, first of all, Jesse's a hard worker. He works his butt off in the off season. He's always asking me to get in the gym on days off. So the success he's having now, he's worked towards that, and he deserves it. Jesse's a guy that he can get to the hoop and make plays for others. He's done that really well. I think he had 4 or 5 assists last night. He's a really good shooter. He's got a pull-up game right now. He's not as strong as he needs to be. He's only a sophomore, but as he gets older, he's going to be tough to handle for opponents. So I've been happy with his play so far.
And another key to anybody being successful is to have the ability for multiple guys to be able to put the ball in the hole. And looking at again the numbers, at least so far, you've had a number of kids who've been able to put up double figures in one game or another. Young man named Garrett I've seen a couple of times. I think a couple of kids named Kaylee, a guy named Roz Badowski who has some good bloodlines, I hear. But it looks like you do have the ability to have some balance and have guys that are able to put the ball in the hole when you need it.
Yeah, and I like it that way. I think every coach would love to have a guy who scores 30 a game because you can go to that guy in a tough situation. But I love having 3 or 4 guys who I know I can go to at any point in time. It doesn't have to be one guy, and the opponent can't just focus on one guy. they have to focus on the team. So we're playing really well together as a team, and we're really sharing the ball too, which is what I enjoy seeing. That extra pass being made and passing up a good shot for a great shot. All those things matter, and we're doing a really good job of that right now.
And I think you got to also enjoy from what if I'm down at the Y, a bunch of these names he's lit, you see these guys. I mean, he's got a handful. You got a handful of gym rats.
They're working.
I mean, they like to be in there, and that's got to be appeasing, I think, to a coach to say, my guys are there. We have practice, and there's still other play. I mean, as long as they're not getting hurt and overdoing it.
I was trying to leave just now, and there's 4 or 5 guys still waiting to shoot, or wanting to shoot. And I'm like, guys, I got to go. So, and it's those names. It's Jesse Nubgezik. It's Isaac Rozwadowski. It's Jaden Garrett. It's those guys, Charlie Cayley, that are working extra hard. After a tough game, making sure that the next game that they're ready to go.
And Coach, so far young season yet. We're getting to Christmas break. I remember always trying to evaluate. Here's what we wanted in. Are we doing well on this? What do we got to pick up? What do we got to really finalize right after Christmas because you can get some extra practices in with the time off. Right now, what you really like about your team, and what we got to hit heavy. One facet of your guys' game that you got to hit heavier as you come off of the Christmas break.
Yeah, what I really like is how we're sharing the ball and the multiple different guys that are scoring and different guys every night. I like that. I like that we're able to put up points and we're able to press people and we're able to cause some turnovers there. And it's going to be an ongoing thing for us. But defensively, we got to get better. We're giving up 75 points a game right now, and that's a lot for high school basketball. And that's asking a lot for us on offense too. If you're giving up 75, that means you got to score a little bit more. So we got to get better defensively, and that's something that we focus on every day. And hopefully at some point we get better.
Along that line, what does your team have to do better on that end? Because as you said, I think there was a game where you scored 75 and you didn't quite get it.
We lost 75, 77.
When you look at what you're trying to accomplish, and you said it, turnovers. It looks like that's one of the big keys. You want to get the team out of their comfort level and force some turnovers. Yeah. But generally, what are the guideposts that say you're playing better defense?
I would say if we're holding teams to under 50 points, that'd be great. We've only done that one time this year against Green Bay East, and we've played some really good offensive teams, here lately, and we're giving up about 70 points a game. So I think how that would look is if we are finishing plays, right? They miss a shot. Are we getting the rebound? Or are we giving up 3 shots? I can look back to the first possession of the Marshfield game yesterday. We made them miss 3 shots. They got 3 offensive rebounds. On the 4th rebound, they were able to kick it out and hit a 3, right? So, those are things we look back on film and say, guys, you stopped him 3 times. We got a rebound and finish the play. So on-ball defense has been an issue for us too. And then help defense. Defense is a team thing. And we're not playing great team defense right now, but the guys want it and they work hard, so we're going to get there at some point.
Well, I was going to lead into how about your conference? Everybody's when you coach and you play within that conference, it's always a big mess. I mean, everybody's going after everybody. There's sometimes a little different tiers. There's people that we got to go sneak up and get these guys. It's going to be a hard one. We should have this one. There's all those different facets within your conference, and everybody, as every coach always said, our conference is the best conference because we're in it, and that's true. It holds true for that moment. So, I don't know. What do you think? What's kind of your shakedown of the conference early on yet? But what do you see so far?
Well, I'm going to be like all the other coaches, and our conference is really good. It's really good. There's no night off. I don't think you can look at anybody and say, I think we're going to win this one. You got to play well every night, and I think we played the 2 toughest teams. I think initially, to as far as records go, to start the conference season. But I think after that, it's there's little toss-up games. When you go play a West, or it doesn't matter what the records are. When you go play Merrill, like we did last Friday, it doesn't really matter what the records are. And I looked it up. We hadn't won up there since 2015. So it was time for us to get up there and get a win. So it doesn't matter who it is in the conference. I think everybody's trying to go after everyone, and even those top teams, I think that they understand that if they don't play well on a night, that one of us could knock them off.
Let me ask you, since you had a chance to see both Everest and Marshfield, and those teams obviously are getting a lot of notice.
Hopefully you're not going where I think you're going.
But I'm not going to ask you to say who's better, okay. but in terms of how good they are. How good are they? Are those teams, because you've been around the game for quite a while, are those the kind of teams that do have the pieces? Because we would love to see our area make some deep runs in the postseason. And obviously, you in Division II don't have to worry about those teams because they're in Division I.
Yep.
Do you feel like those are the kind of teams that have the pieces to be competitive with some of the better teams in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at Marshfield's scores, even in those losses, I mean, they weren't really getting beat by a ton of points. And it ever took, I think, Oshkosh North, who's like second or third in the state, to overtime, I believe. So they can absolutely compete with those teams, and both of those teams are really good. They shoot the ball really well. They played a close game last week when they played each other. So, two tough teams, and like we talked about off air, Marshfield is, they got about 7 or 8 guys who all do the same thing really well, and that's tough to beat.
What about your program generally? This is your 3rd season as the head man at East. Obviously, there was a need for some building to try to build this program up. Generally, how's the foundation? How are the numbers? How do you feel about where the East program is at this point? Generally,
I think we're on the rise. And I think a lot of sports at East are on the rise as well. We have 4 teams, 2 freshman teams, and so our numbers are doing really well. I think we set the foundation of how we want to play the game. We want to play it fast. We want to press, whether it be zone press or man press, and all of our teams are really doing that right now. If you look at the JV teams, they play very similar to how we're playing. So I think the foundation is there. Now we have to start beating a Marshfield, beating a DC Everson, and start beating those teams so that we can get that respect.
And when we've been asking coaches that they've been on this season, kind of both just their overall views of scheduling, because obviously you can see you dive into a tournament and Thanksgiving, you're going somewhere over the Christmas break. Some teams, when I write up my notes, they're dormant till after they get back, and you take a marathon, for example, in the area, they don't play till after Thanksgiving, and it works all different ways. How important is it to have these tournaments and going over to Stratford next week?
I'd rather play games. I think the kids are going to learn more from the game than they are from practice. And in practice today, it was a good practice, but it was still kind of trying to keep them on track. But in a game, you can't necessarily simulate that. So I like playing games. I like playing in Christmas tournaments and the Thanksgiving tournaments. I know some coaches don't like the Thanksgiving tournament because you only have so many practices. I say let's roll the ball out there and see what we got, and then we're kind of ahead of the game too. So I enjoy playing over Christmas and getting that opportunity to practice during those times too.
Along the same line, something we've asked a couple of coaches over the start of this season, because last season we saw the computer rankings, and there were some questionable slotting of it. Does that affect how you schedule? How do you look at that in terms of the seeding process, and maybe after a year of having it with the computer, how do you like it? Would you like to see coaches have a little more say? What's your overall feelings about that?
I don't know if it affected my scheduling this year. I mean, I think we were going to play who we were going to play no matter what. But there was some strange seedings that came out. Not necessarily for us. I think we were seated where we were supposed to be, but there were some strange seedings. But I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I mean, I like the seeding meeting, but then in those two, for like Merrill and us, we're going to play. We're going to go in a seeding meeting with one conference, and they're going to take care of each other. So the way it's done now kind of takes that out of it, but at the same time, I think maybe it should be a combination of the two. But obviously, I'm not the boss of that. So.
Well, lastly, I do it with my 6th grade son right now. I think coaches' kids they have a hard time. When your dad's a coach, there's expectations set. There can be some coaches will cut it off, say we're not talking about the other dinner table, but the other coaches are like we're bringing it up, and you got to give those coaches' kids props for the toughness they, I think, develop having their father on the sidelines. I mean, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of coaches also like when you're on that deathbed at the end of the life, that's a cool thing. That's a trophy that you see it. It's a live, living trophy that, hey, I got to coach my kid. I think that's cool. So, how's it been being able to work with you and give him some props? I mean, you sometimes yell at him excellence, give him some props. It's just the way it is.
I think Jaden's done a really good job handling me as the season's gone on. He does a good job of just saying yes and moving on no matter what I'm screaming at him about. And I try to, when we're in school, I'm coach. And then when we get in the car to go home, I'm Dad, and I talk to him as Dad, as I would talk to as father would talk to him. So we're not talking about it at the dinner table unless he brings it up, but I will respond to him as his dad, not as his coach. And I think he's done a really good job.
You guys slow down. I got to write some notes down. I'm not that good.
He's done a really good job with it, and I'm very proud of him. And he's had a good start to the season too.
And I guess finally, this is over the years I've noticed. It's more difficult for schools to keep coaches, and the need for coaches to have a real bond with their schools, that they're going to be there, build a program. And I'm going to ask you, because you came to East from Newman,
yep.
and you had a very young, and you knew a very talented crew over there that you see right now that are in the state rankings. But you wanted to be at Wausau East because you've been there. You have I think a real connection with East, and East needs, I think, stability within their athletic programs.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of being the coach at Wausau East? Because you gave up something. You gave up, I think, a chance to maybe win a state championship with some of those very talented players over at Newman. But there is obviously a real connection with Wausau East that's important to you, isn't there?
Yeah, East gave me my first chance here in this area as a coach. So I always felt loyalty to them. And the job actually opened up twice while I was at Newman. And I didn't apply the first time. And the second time I thought, I got to go for it and see what happens. I live on the east side. I go grocery shopping on the east side. I think it's cool to have that community. When you go in the store and people know you won a game and they say, hey, nice game. I love that. I love that part of being a coach. And I love that part of being a part of Wausau East as well. And I've helped coach some other sports and gotten to deal with all the kids and different administrators and those types of things. So, I'm going to be at East until they tell me they don't want me anymore. But I'm enjoying my time there. And I think, like you said, the stability is important, and building those relationships with the kids is important. And, I go to third and fourth grade games and making sure I'm supporting them so they know who I am and those types of things. So, stability is important for a high school coach, and for me, I'm not looking for the next best thing. I'm doing it at the place I want to do it.
Actually, real quickly before we wrap it up, I was talking to Deb Foster, who of course is the principal over at East, and she said how much she appreciated what you did during football. That you were not a football guy, but you still were able to go over there, help out because you know about coaching, about setting things up and making sure things get done. What was that experience like? Because you had not had the football experience, but you were part of what they're trying to rebuild over at the east side with football.
Well, I embarrassed myself a little bit. 5 minutes into that first practice, I broke my pinky trying to catch a football. But yeah, they needed help, and I said I would help, and I said I didn't want to be the head coach, but I'll certainly step in and help wherever you guys need. And it was really fun. Honestly, I've never coached football before at the high school level, and it was really fun. The kids were great. A lot of the kids play football or basketball, so it was good to see kids in other sports and how they act in other sports, and kind of get a different view of how they are in different sports. So I enjoyed it, and if they'll have me back again next year, I'll do it again next year. But it was fun.
Very good. Anything else, Jeff?
Well, just lastly, you're you come off the conference win against Merrill, then you said we struggled on some things against Marshfield, but very good basketball team. And then I always, if I remember correctly again, because Chad says my memory's going, but if I remember correctly again, you want to get into the next game. Yeah. And which would be Lakeland tomorrow, but unfortunately, the weather's going to be what the weather's going to be. Going forward, what do you think is what's your message to the guy, with the patient? Because you went from one thing at Merrill to one thing at Marshfield, probably, and now you want to get back. What's going to be your kind of message? If you have a couple, you have a couple practices yet before Christmas? Will you get a couple more practices?
Well, we're going to give them time off, right? Okay. So there's no school tomorrow and there's no games tomorrow. So we're going to give them Thursday and Friday off, obviously Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll get back to it on Monday and kind of get going there and kind of have a normal week of practice. But we were ready, we would have been ready to play tomorrow. We were ready to go. But I think time off helps too, and I think they'll need some. They'll get 5 days off here, and then we'll get back going and play a really good Bangor team in a few days.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Head Coach Dan Garrett of the Wausau East Lumberjacks. We got to take a break. We'll come back with more. We'll talk a little girls hoops coming up as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bowfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. Thanks to Lumberjack head coach Dan Garrett for joining us. Again, coming up in about 12 minutes or so, we'll be joined by the senior guard from the Marathon Red Raiders, Drew Love, as the Marathon off to a terrific start early on this season. He's Jeff Gress. I'm Chad Holmes. Time to talk a little bit about high school girls basketball. That is continuing. And I got to say, the Wisconsin Valley Conference got pretty interesting. I think going into the campaign, there was a sense that Wausau West, who had dominated the last 2 years, did not lose a game each of the last 2 years, was going to roll again towards the conference championship with a very experienced team. But Stevens Point and Marshfield are saying not so quickly. And looking at the Valley, last Friday, Spash won at Wausau West, snapping the Warriors' long Wisconsin Valley Conference win streak, 54-51. Emma Josie had 23 points. Talia Moe, 11 for Spash. Lexi White had 19. Kelly Cray, 11 for the Warriors. And then Stevens Point last night defeated DC Everest, 74-29. Emma Josie, again, 27 points. Lindsay Weiler, 15. Braylon Byler, 17. Marshfield is undefeated on the season overall. They defeated DC Everest on Friday, 63-21. Ashley Grankorvitz at 20. Daniel Minsas, 18 for the Tigers. Braylon Byler, 11 for the Evergreens. And then Marshfield last night beat Wausau East by 50 points, 82-32. Daniel Minsas led 4 Tigers in double figures with 22 points. Last night, Wausau West did get back on the winning track and knocking off Wisconsin Rapids 70-50. Also, last Friday, always like to see Merrill win because we don't want any jinxes.
We get blamed for that one.
But Merrill did defeat Wausau East last Friday, 72-46. 30 points for Maya Ott. That's a huge night for Ott. Prayla Payan at 12. Elena Pozorski, 11 for the Blue Jays. And then they won again last night in a non-conference game, defeating an always tough Rhinelander squad, 67-59. Maya Ott and Maddie Drew, 21. Prayla Payan, 12. So that's the activity. And Marshfield actually also won a non-conference game last Saturday, 61-41 over St. Croix Central. Minsas, boy, she's had a good week. She had 26 points in that game. But you look at the Valley, again, Wausau West is still a very good basketball team. They got a lot of talent. I think it's going to come together. They're missing right now their starting point guard. Deaton, yes. Kenzie Deaton. So many Deatons over the years, and it's like my mind's freezing up. But she's been out. But West still has a lot of talent. But for Stevens Point to go into the West Fieldhouse last Friday and earn that win, that was a huge win for Craig Terpstra and his squad.
Yeah, I guess starting at the top, Marshfield getting 9-0 right now, 4-0 overall, sending a message that, West was an early favorite with expecting Marshfield and Spash to kind of be hanging around that next tier. Showing that there's going to be some shakeup here. A good week for Marshfield, three wins since last Friday with some significant number, over 40 by Everest, 20 to St. Croix Central, and another 50 against East. Their
point differential is pretty good.
Yeah, it's very, very well done. And then I think Spash, that's a significant win to go over to West and win. And those teams have had some battles. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you still can't count out West. They're very dangerous. They got a lot of players that can put the ball in the basket. Sometimes you lose a game here and there when you're not at full strength, when you're playing some of the better teams in the conference. That happens, and it'll be interesting to see when they get back to full strength, the damage and the havoc they can cause on the other teams when they always play good defense and trade that in for some offense. It looks like just for some of the other teams down, Merrill, I think is, they might only be sitting at 1-2, but they're 6-5 overall. That's a solid record right now for them.
They've already won 2 more games than they did all last year.
That's what I'm saying, and some by some significant point values. So just the improvement off the year for Coach DeBoer and his team, and getting that production out of Ott. I mean, I think whenever you're a high school basketball player, especially in the central part of the state, you're like, I scored, I got 30 points in this game or that game. That's a significant game. Boys, girls, and whenever it happens in what year they're in. And she's averaging about 20 a game, and I think that helps out tremendously when you got a player that can put those points up to help out with some of those W's. So again, I think at the top, you're starting to see some of the teams rise to the occasion. They're going to stick 1, 2, 3 there and probably go after each other. And the next tier of teams, like Coach DeBoer said, we want to be third or fourth if we can get into that spot. That's what we're kind of trying to fight for. And I think Rapids, Everest, and East still going to have to battle hard to get some W's within this conference.
And guys, I mean, Everest has struggled, but boy, Braylon Byler, every night they know she's their scorer, and yet she has been putting up double digits. And I think she deserves a little salute. At 17 last night against Bash, 11 against Marshfield. So again, it's not easy when everybody kind of knows that you're the kid they're going to be looking to get the offense.
Yeah, when that target comes on the back, that I think you have to work exceptionally hard, not only to make your practice apply to what you're able to accomplish in a game, but there's going to be a lot of extra things you have to. You're going to get. You're going to think you're going to get around a screen and somebody's going to be standing there. And your effort and your mental toughness throughout any given night, if you can keep that consistent as a high school athlete, even when your team's not getting those W's, I think you're right. Gets the little props, and that's a big deal.
GNC, Mosinee starting to find their way. Last Friday, they defeated Rhinelander 59-50. Taylor Jershely, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Caitlin Sell, 14 points, 9 rebounds. Ava Lamers had 22 for the Hodags. And then last night, Mosinee, a non-conference win over Edgar, 46-31. Jershely, 18. Reagan Borkard, 19 for Edgar. Lakeland last night extended their win streak to 7 games in a row. They defeated Antigo 58-33. So Medford also defeated Tomahawk in a conference game last Friday, 57-16. But Lakeland still looking like Lakeland, 7 wins in a row, all by big margins. But Mosinee, after a bit of a slow start, they've been playing some pretty good ball lately.
Yeah, I think the game that stands out to me most in the conference is that Mosinee beat Edgar by a significant amount. And Edgar, we'll get into it, I'm sure, in a second here, but Edgar's doing really well in the Marywood South. And Borchardt's a formidable opponent with the amount of points she can produce and her athleticism and the way she can score in bundles. So I think it looks like steadily getting some improvement out of that Mosinee team. We've already said Lakeland's going to be atop of that conference with they've gone on a tear after starting off 0-3, and they're going to be the team to beat. And you can see that with they beat Everest significantly and got a nice win against Anago. And the Wilmette sisters are putting up, one's close to 20 and the other's plus 20. So putting up some great numbers there. But I think Mosinee doing a good job beating Rhinelander, who's a formidable foe in that conference, and going outside and beating Edgar's good. And then after that, I think it's, Rhinelander's next. And then after that, the teams are going to fight to get wins.
Not a lot of activity in the Marywood South, just some non-conference games because they were supposed to play some conference activity last Thursday, but those games were wiped away due to the last snowstorm. Monday, Newman fell to Rosholt 40-35, a game that we had right here on WXCO. Maggie Wolf 10, Lily Shields 9, Sydney Galang 7 for the Cards. Also Monday, Assumption continues to roll. They defeated Loyal 66-21, Kendall Dolman and Anna Schooley 14 points each for Assumption. Then last night, Marathon, they win a non-conference game at Colby, 49-34, and Stratford fell to Crandon in a non-conference game, 57-37. So not any changes in the conference. Assumption looks like they're playing some pretty solid ball lately, them winning by big margins. Tough loss for Newman, and I still like what Marathon does defensively. It's too bad. I think we're probably not going to see Marathon and Newman tomorrow night because Marathon has been playing such good defense. It would probably be a defensive struggle, but again, Assumption is right now the cream of the crop in the South.
Yeah,
and of course Auburndale's there.
Right. Well, and again, that's why as much as you can't control the weather, but the postponements, that's a game you want to see get in because it gets a little bit of a separation for teams, and it's like. You want those big conference games when they come up, and they're going to make it up, obviously. But at the moment, Substance still stands at 8-0, 4-0 overall, and playing well and rolling within the top of the Marywood South. Edgar took the tough one to Mosinee, I think, but I think they're going to continue to. You got Borchard at 20 points and 14 rebounds, averaging a double-double. So she's going to continue to make that team go, and they're sitting at 4-1. Auburndale's going to be up there, even though they've taken a couple of those Marywood North losses that have kind of come back to bite them in terms of their overall win-loss total. And then I was the same thing that you said, because they're local teams. It's always a rivalry. Marathon, Newman, over the years.
They tried to play last Thursday. They were trying to play tomorrow, but it seems like they're just going to keep waiting.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see it for the same reason, because you've seen them live. I haven't seen them, so I'm going on what I believe that you say in terms
in
terms of their defense. And I think it would be a good atmosphere, because Newman gets back in their home gym, and they aren't going to be happy with the last time they played, where they could have beat a Rochholt team. So I think that element and those things within the basketball game make it exciting, and again, a good conference here with the Marywood South girls.
We will talk more about girls basketball. We haven't got through all the conferences yet. We'll talk about what's ahead in terms of the holiday tournaments as well a little bit later on in the program. But we have to take another break, as coming up we'll have our student athlete guest for this week from the Marathon Red Raiders, off to a very good start this season. We'll talk to their senior guard, Drew Love. That's coming up as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show every Wednesday night from 6 till 8 p.m. right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and very happy to start off hour number 2 with our student athlete guest for this week from Marathon High School, senior guard Drew Love. And Drew, thank you for making the trek over. I know it's not easy tonight, but appreciate you making the trek and talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, let's start off, because last night I was over at Newman Catholic. We had the game right here on Bull Falls Radio, and it was just a great basketball game. I thought it was just so exciting. You and Newman went at it. You on the road trying to stay undefeated. It's been such a great start for you and your teammates. What was the feeling like? Was that a special game for early in the season? You get some of those when you get to March, but to have a game like that in December had to really get you into the flow of what's going on this season.
Coach says that every game is the biggest game of the year, just because it's the next one. But obviously that's just kind of a special situation going over to Newman. They haven't lost there in like 2 years or so it's just a tough place to play. So we've all had that scheduled, circled.
Let me ask you about the situation at the end of the game, because I said before we went on the air, that's almost like, every kid is out there, they shoot hundreds and thousands of free throws by themselves, thinking, hey, the game is on the line. We're gonna drill it. And you went to the line down by 2 after getting fouled with 0.3 of a second to go. You made the first. They tried to ice you with a timeout after that, and then you came back and drilled the second and then missed the third. But 2 out of 3 in a pressure situation. Could you maybe pull the curtain back a little bit and just what were your thoughts in that situation? Again, you said it was a loud gym. It was a big game. It was just an incredible, tight, pressure-packed game. What was your feelings as you took those free throws?
I try to just step to the line with as much confidence as I can. Basically, trying to think ahead. What are we going to do after I make these? Just saying in my head that I'm going to make these. And then another big thing was just after I made the first one, they called the timeout. I came back out. I looked over to actually my dad, who's been to every one of my games. He's sitting in the same spot every single game. He's just sitting there telling me also to just breathe, telling me to relax. So I think that's kind of what got me through the second one.
And that was perfect. That second one was as pure a free throw as we've seen. So, again, outstanding. Jeff?
Well, and I was just going to ask you, Drew, how it's no matter, nobody likes to lose, and it's a competitive situation. Everybody wants to get a win, but how is it? At the end of the day, as much nerve-wracking and stress that can pop up in that game, but you guys got to play through it and fight to try to get the W. Is it a lot of fun, too, at the same time to have that experience? Because sometimes we always mark ourselves on, do we get the win or loss? Where do we stand? Or what are we learning from this? Or what do we do well? And I think sometimes just trying to slow down and live in the moment can be a lot of fun, too. Did you guys, what was throughout that game? Was that a stressful game? Was it a nerve-wracking game? Was it just a lot of fun being in that environment?
As a competitor, I definitely love to be in that high pressure situation, having to perform to get the win. I think back actually to football season, we played at home against Stanley, and that I thought was the most fun I've had all year. We actually lost in overtime also, but even just to be in that situation with everyone in the stands screaming and things like that, I just enjoy that a lot.
Go on.
I got one more. And we ask any player that comes in here and they play in the Merriwood for basketball, for the South especially, know what a war it is. And the coaches, I'm sure, make that evident that this is not going to be easy. You can't fall asleep on any given night. How difficult is it to play in that conference? I mean, there's a lot of good basketball, and I think it's a great route to go. But from your standpoint, what do you think about the Merriwood South?
Yeah, I was actually watching the live stream from last night, and they mentioned that it's the best small school conference in the state, which I would totally agree with. Any given night, you can play a conference game, and any team can come out and beat you, home or away. So.
Again, we're talking to Drew Love, the senior for the Marathon Red Raiders here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Before the game, I was talking to Coach Jacobs, and he was, I was asking, I said, thank you for his help in getting you on the program here tonight. And he talked about how you've taken some major strides this year on the court. As you look at your own game, where do you think that you've made strides from maybe last season to this season that's allowed you to become, I think, a real major factor for your team's good start?
One thing that I kind of pride myself on is my ability to control the ball, like ball handling, playmaking. I started the year throughout 2 or 3 games. I was the top assist leader in the state. Obviously, it kind of helps when you got like 6'9" to throw to underneath the hoop. But yeah, I just enjoy having the ball in my hands, making plays for myself and for teammates.
Making plays, and I gotta say that I did your game last Friday in Stratford, and then last night. You had a couple of really amazing finishes, I thought, at Stratford last week, where it was real terrific finishes. And you had one last night as well, where I think you got fouled on the play and still made the shot. Is this something new as well? Because I thought the difficulty level on some of these shots that you've been making the last couple of games, it looks like you have a lot of confidence right now.
I would say the biggest thing that goes into that was this summer. I played a lot of AAU basketball, and throughout the circuit that I was playing in, you're playing against 6'7", 6'8", almost every single game. So just a regular right-hand layup doesn't get the job done almost ever. So I've just gotten comfortable being very creative with my finishes.
The angles are different, aren't they, with 6'7" and 6'8" in front of you?
And how about your teammates? Obviously, you help make the Marathon team go and get off to this exceptional start that you guys have and sitting atop the Merriwood Conference with Auburndale and Newman. How about some of your teammates? What do they bring to the table that help your team be a formidable foe when people are scouting you guys and looking at you?
I think the biggest thing that we each collectively bring to the table is just our willingness to play for each other. I think we got a great group of guys that really values the we over me. We've learned over the course of the season kind of fall into our roles. Obviously, you got guys like Grant, who's just going to get boards and make shots. And then me kind of running the offense. And then guys like Cooper hitting shots. He had a couple of really big threes last night. And then Tyler Underwood's just kind of our scrappy guy who'll play in the middle and mid-range a lot. He'll finish, make plays. And then Mason is kind of the glue of the defense, I think, really for us.
And from last night, tonight at practice, obviously a great basketball game. You want to see both teams win, but that's not going to happen. And you guys, you go back into that next day of practice with a little more chip on your shoulder, things to prove. And you just said we got resiliency. We play as a team. We play for each other. That's a big deal. What's the mindset come out of practice? And is everybody a little upset? Like, hey, we got to get going a little more? Or are you guys like, hey, we just got to focus? I mean, because you played well. There's just little things to probably tweak. So what was the mindset practice? And now you got a little bit of I don't think you guys play till you got Iola next.
We're supposed to play Iola tomorrow, depending on the weather. But,
okay.
Yeah.
But could be one of our big gifts of the night that we're talking about. So I don't know. What's the mindset coming out of practice? Is it we got to get back to it and get in it, or what's kind of the thought process that you guys go through as players? I guess I would say.
So obviously last night losing in overtime the way that we did was like a very emotional game for us. But we came back today and I was really happy with how everybody handled themselves. We actually probably had one of our best practices of the year tonight. So it was just a great way to bounce back. Everybody just kind of in a great mood to end the night.
So it'd be nice to get back to that game tomorrow. Just go right at Iola.
Again, we're talking to Drew Love from the Marathon Red Raiders here on the Big High School Sports Show. Before we'll talk some more basketball, but you mentioned you're a football player as well. Do you play any other sports? Are you a 3-sport athlete or just a 2-sport athlete?
Since freshman year, I've been 2-sport.
And for football, for those folks who aren't familiar, what's your position?
My main position is linebacker defensively.
And being a linebacker, I mean, that's the quarterback of the defense often. They have to be one of the studs on the defensive side of the football. Are you able to carry anything that you take from your football experiences onto the basketball court? Can you build momentum in the fall, I guess, and continue into the winter sports season?
Yeah. It's not necessarily super football related, but I think this last summer between junior and senior year, I grew a lot in my leadership ability. So I really grew that during football season. And with our basketball team, it's a lot of the same guys play football and basketball. So I already have that relationship with all of them, and they understand that I'm here to kind of help them and lead them. So that carries over really well.
And I guess continuing on that thought process of what you just said is, because I've heard coaches use the cliche, you got the same colored jersey on, you get in the lines of this court or the lines of this field, you all got to get along, outside, whatever. I think it's so much more important that outside you're getting along as best you can do. I think just that constant bonding. And how important has it been having good bonds with your teammates and being around these guys, especially as a senior when you look back and relationships are going to not change necessarily totally, but you're going to make new friendships when in your next step in life, and you're not going to see these guys as you do every day in class and in your sports. How important is it to have these tight bonds with these guys that you've warred with in your sports so far?
Yeah, like I was talking about earlier, just growing as a team, that's probably the most important thing. We love spending time with each other outside of even just school-related things. We'll go out to eat after games, after practices if we don't have school that day, things like that. Sometimes you hear about teams that say everybody gets along except for this one guy, but we just don't have that. We all get along really well with each other.
What's your favorite class?
Right now, I'd have to say... well, apart from my gym class that I'm in right now.
We all love gym.
Yeah, I'd have to say maybe my computer application class or accounting, which I feel like I have to say because Mr. Jacobson teaches that class.
That was going to be my next thing. I was going to ask him, is he wanted to teach one of those classes for you? Good answer, though.
Do you have any plans for after school? Do you plan on going to college? Do you plan on going to go into a career? Do you have any ideas at this point? I know it's still early in life here, but you have still have a lot of your senior year. But do you have any plans for the future?
Yeah, I plan to go to probably just a 4-year college. Not 100% sure where yet. I have 2 offers right now to play football, continue playing linebacker. So,
would you like to share where those are?
Yeah, my first one that I got was a little over a month ago, probably. I got it from a small school in Minnesota called Crown College.
Okay.
It's about half hour south of the cities.
Oh, cool.
And then just last Saturday, I got one from Ripon.
Oh, Ripon's had a really good year. I know there's a couple of kids that I've covered here in Wausau that play over there as well. So that's very, very impressive.
And then going along those same lines with, you talked about some of your favorite classes. Does any of that have an idea of what direction you might want to take your education? I mean, I know sometimes people are here and talking to Chad and I, and they're saying they have no idea. And I get that. But do you have an idea of what direction you want to go occupationally beyond college, or something you want to pursue?
Yeah, right now, I was thinking, just major-wise, I was thinking business management with an emphasis sports entertainment. So, yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun too. That's always a good aspect when you're thinking forward. Coming back to basketball, actually, before we do that, when you want to get away from it, when you want to get away from your sports activities, obviously it keeps you very busy from your school activities. What do you like to do to kind of get away from it all?
So I'm pretty much, it's kind of the basic teenage boy answer, but I enjoy video games a lot. One of the things that we like to do outside of school a lot is all of us hopping on like Xbox or whatever and just doing something non-athletic related.
What is the game of choice to beat each other up on and either do one of two things? You either smarten off to each other because you're doing well, or you got the mad guy that's always in the group too that put his fist through the drywall. So you don't have to say which one you are, but what's the game of choice that you guys play?
Right now, mine would probably be Madden. I've been playing a lot of that lately. And to answer your question, I'm usually the one that is beating everybody else. So.
I like that.
Very good. Going back to basketball, I don't know whether or not within your group you're surprised with the way the team started, because it's been very impressive. but you lost 4 starters from a year ago. It's not easy to replace 4 starters and be successful right away. Was there a surprise? Because you started off with a really tough opponent in Auburndale, and obviously that must have built a lot of confidence getting a win against Auburndale to start the season off. But with 4 new starters, what were the expectations? Is there any surprise that right now you're in a tie for first place in your conference?
Well, we just expected to compete night in and night out. I think it helped a lot throughout the summer. Coach really tries to schedule us opponents that we kind of play up, playing a lot of D2, D3 schools. So we don't necessarily win a whole lot during the summer, but then it just makes regular season play that much easier.
You got a favorite conference rival?
I would say, I don't know. There's feels like every conference game is a rival game, but I enjoy playing Newman a lot. Especially last night at Newman.
How about in football? Is there a favorite team you look forward to playing in football? Or?
I mean, I guess the marathon, Edgar, it's just a big thing for us. So, yeah.
Absolutely. As you look forward for the rest of this season with a good start, and for yourself, again, you've been really effective in scoring and in dishing out, rebounding. You've also been, for a guard, putting up some pretty big rebounding numbers as well. As you look forward, as you said, I mean, this has been a terrific start. You're going to be challenged over and over again in the next couple of months. What do you feel like the ceiling is for this team? Do you feel like this team has the capability, with your togetherness, with the skill that you do have, to make a run for a conference championship and then maybe a run in the postseason playoffs?
I would say that as the season's gone on, we've definitely started to consider competing for conference championship. I know in the preseason we were kind of ranked as one of the lower teams in the conference, but I think that especially with the couple of big wins we've had early on, that it just shows this team's potential.
What is it like having the biggest kid in the conference and having what granted last night was, number one. I mean, he's lobbing it and he's able to, but he's also able to step behind the 3-point arc and drain it, as we saw last night as well. Mm-hmm. As a guard, I imagine that opens things up for you on the court. It allows you, number one, to have a great target down low, but also what we saw from you, I think, a little bit more and more the last couple of games is to also use your ability to get to the basket as well. I imagine just having that weapon for you and your teammates is something that is really fun for you to add to your repertoire as well.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easy when you just throw it up and know that he's going to go get it above anybody else. But we like to play off Grant a lot. We work on that a lot in practice because we know that if we get him the ball in like a low post or high post situation, a lot of times they're sending doubles, maybe even triples at him. So we work a lot on off-ball movement, cutting, relocating for a shot, things like that.
Was last night the best offensive night generally that you've had? Because I thought your defense against Stratford was stellar. I mean, really, it was, I thought, the key to the game, because it took a little while for you to kind of get into the game offensively. We're actually behind, and then to win at Stratford by 25 points, it felt like you kind of got into their heads defensively by the second half. Offensively, was last night, because you did, I thought, play really solid offense throughout the evening, was that the best offensive night you've had?
Just off the top of my head, I would probably say, as a team, I would say, yeah, it's up there.
And what about the defense? Because I think that Marathon is known for playing really good defense. And again, Friday at Stratford, I thought was to allow 35 points against Stratford is a real great accomplishment. What's the key defensively for your team?
We just emphasize help defense a lot. We understand that you're not necessarily going to keep your guy from the hoop all the time if you're just on an island by yourself. So we have to help each other, and then also helping the person who helps. So it's just constant rotation.
Well, I like to ask the sentimental question. You're a senior. You naturally count down your sports time. As one more game goes by, it's one less game you get back. No matter how far you go. So you want to, like you said, we're making the most of the moments. We're doing stuff together. What are you going to miss most about high school sports when your time's up and it's done?
I would say the bond that I've been able to share with a lot of these guys. There are guys on both the basketball team and the football team who I'm now very close friends with because of athletics that I never probably would have gotten to know to the level that I do if it weren't for that experience.
And I think it's time for the final question.
All right. We like to say it's a toughie, but it's not. It's however you feel. So you've logged a lot of hours in sports. I'm assuming you've played from a very, very young age, and you've been in marathon sports programs from the time you were a freshman, time you were a senior. You're talking and sharing some of your leadership skills and values with one of the younger players, or for somebody that's coming up as an 8th grader coming into marathon for whatever sport you want it to be, basketball or football. What's your advice to them so that when they graduate, they make the most of it? They don't waste their time there. What would you tell them that you've learned that would be most meaningful?
I would say that it's just hard work. You got to work hard, like every day is your last day. Even as a junior last year, I never really understood how close I was to the end. And just tonight, we were talking our kind of pre-practice talk. Coach Jacobson said, even if we're not to the level that we want to be playing tonight, we have to be to the level we want to be in 9 weeks, because March is in 9 weeks. And I was standing there, I was thinking to myself, wow, I only have 9 weeks left of this. Been playing since I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, so the last 10 years, 9 weeks left.
Drew Love, Marathon Red Raiders senior, again, has been a solid performer for Marathon so far as the Red Raiders off to a very solid start in a 3-way tie for first place right now in the Merriwood Conference South Division. Drew, again, thank you very much for coming on over. Best of luck as you continue, and best of luck as you make your decision on your next the next level, because we talk about this all the time. The percentage of high school athletes that get the opportunity to play at the next level is very, very small. It's great that you have that potential to be able to continue. So, again, congratulations on that, and thanks again.
Thank you.
That's Drew Love from the Marathon Red Raiders. We got to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with more. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230 WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Along with Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And again, thanks to our student-athlete guest for this week. Made the trek from Marathon. Really appreciate that here on a little bit of a snowy, cold evening. Thanks to Drew Love. And again, I was talking to the coach before the game last night. He's talked about how Drew has taken some big steps forward. And as you know, having 4 new starters and to play like Marathon has done so far this season, we shouldn't be surprised because Marathon does this. But at the same time, these kids have really stepped up, and Drew Love being one of them.
Yeah, that's a big deal right away to start. Like you didn't miss any pace when you're putting a new group in, and that's a credit to the kids, a credit to the coaching staff, and that's why they only have the 1 loss.
We did not finish up with our high school girls basketball review before our player interview. We got through the Wisconsin Valley, Great Northern, and Merriwood South. Merriwood North, there was a big game last Friday night in that league. Athens was undefeated. Phillips had lost once, and Phillips went to Athens and won 75-66. Matiah Eckert, 28 points. Casey Egebrecht, 21 for the Loggers. Giselle Hartwig had 25 for Athens. So Phillips and Athens now both with 1 loss, tied for first in the Merriwood North. Also in the Merriwood North, Prentice beat Shawamigan 67-42. Phillips last night, 1-point win in a non-conference game against Wabeno Leona 53-52, and Abbotsford defeated Rib Lake 55-34. But again, I think likewise with the boys, the Merriwood North on the girls' side is also closed the gap a bit to the Merriwood South.
Well, and sometimes what I like to always see, which I think is cool, like take the Athens team, for example, had a lot of success in girls volleyball. So I'm imagining they've got some of those same athletes on the court. So that like leadership, skill and abilities, it just transfers over into a new sport, and the kids continue to step up and they build success from the fall season to the winter season. So for Athens, 9-1 overall, 5-1 to start is great. They bounced back against Northern Lutheran after they got beat by Phillips last Friday in a big win. for Phillips, I think it makes things interesting. 8-1 overall, 5-1 in the conference, and they're getting 16 points out of their 2 leading scorers. And then they turn around. They have 2 good wins. They beat the top team in the conference at that point. That they're tied with, and then they turn around and get a nice tight one, which is always good to build off of from a coach and a program and a team. And I think like you said, the statement that really rings true with what you just mentioned is the North getting stronger in the Merowoods a big deal. It just means, and now you got 2 teams. Last year we just kind of talked about Phillips. Now you got 2 teams in Athens and Phillips.
And also, when those crossover games occurred in the past, a few years ago, you'd almost roll your eyes because you just know that the Merowoods South was going to win all the games. It was on both the boys and the girls side. It was really, it felt like, boy, why are we even bothering with this? But now these games are significant, and we saw even last season, we saw Phillips come so very close. I mean, Athens come so very close to knocking off Assumption in the playoffs. Was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. They basically had a chance to win it and make the state tournament ultimately, and lost by a point. So again, I think it's good for the league. It's good for the Merowoods South teams to have to be challenged in these crossover games as well. It's good overall.
Well, it becomes credible conference games where before sometimes it was better to not have that game played, barring risking an injury, or can we get more out of practice, or would we rather have another non-conference guy? It's come to a level of validity where these games mean something. They should mean something, and they should be competitive.
CWC North, Northland Lutheran beat Marion 55-25 last Friday. Brianna Obzutz had 17 points, Bree Kane 16, and you just mentioned Northland had a non-conference game at Athens. That was, that's a tough matchup. Athens, a really solid team, and Athens beat Northland 93-34. Giselle Hartwig 24 for the Athens Blue Jays. Danica Diethelm had 22. Brianna Obzutz had 12 for Northland, but Northland got the win they needed last Friday. And again, I think they knew that they were going to be challenged. And again, it's not fun to go through a game like that, but you also, as a coach, do you learn something even in a loss like that?
Well, I would like to think that the way you have to battle just to try to survive, you're going to find some moments where there's some things you can build on. There's going to also be the flip side of that, where there's going to be some things you just write off because it's a different talent pool, and you got to keep your players' confidence level, and you don't want to be shattered at that. But it's tested to show that there's always somebody that's better. There's always somebody that's working as hard as you, if not harder, and you got to continue to keep the chips up. And again, we talked about it earlier in the show with, where's your focus? That's a non-conference game versus the one they got against Marion, which was a conference game. So those become bigger deals when I think they're in the conference at this point.
And the CWC East, a couple of very big wins for Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. They last Friday in conference defeated Menominee Indian 69-27. Reese Rogowski 30 points again. Boy, she is just consistently excellent for the Chargers. And then last night beat a struggling Northland Pines squad 71-19. Between the boys and the girls, there was not a close one between Whitburn and Pines, but they each win one. Whitburn 71, Pines 19 on the girls' side. Reese Rogowski 22 more points. The freshman Rory Salveson had 17. Again, I'm curious to watch this Whitburn team as they continue to the rest of the season, because they're going to be challenged in that conference. That's a solid conference, but between Rogowski and Salveson, plus they got a little bit of others help as well. This is a team that has the potential to make a pretty good run. Yep,
they have offensive productivity in those two girls that carry them through a lot of their games, which have allowed them to hit that 3-1 mark. In the conference, I think they're 9-1 overall, if I've done my math right. And
your math is always good.
Sometimes, but anyway, they're going to be a foe to be reckoned with as we come down to the end of this season, and as well in the conference. But again, they may have sitting at the top with 2 or 3 losses because there's some other good teams that play in the CWC East.
And that'll make them better for the playoffs.
Right, correct.
I mean, that kind of conference, and we see it in the Merowoods South and other solid conferences, it makes you better if you're going to be challenged. I don't think it's good not to be challenged going into the postseason, and that's why scheduling is so vitally important, and having a conference where it's not just one team. And again, I think that's going to be an issue for a team like Lakeland, where they don't have the conference challenging them. They do have these non-conference games, but again, that's good for Whitburn, and again, I think it'll be a very interesting squad to keep an eye on as we continue. Got to talk a little bit of hockey.
I'm ready. I've been waiting.
Well, I'm a little disappointed because the two big ones I was hoping for last Thursday, we talked last week about Wausau West and Stevens Point. Always such a huge one in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Postponed. They will make it up on January the 3rd, so not too far away. Wausau West, 4-0 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Stevens Point, 3-0 in the conference. Wisconsin Rapids is also a very good team. They took West to overtime earlier this season. Last night, they won at Marshfield 6-3, so Rapids at 2-1. DC Everest now 1-3 in the conference. They had a rough one at Stevens Point last night, falling 7-0. Merrill, Newman, Wausau, East Blue Jacks are 0-3, and the Marshfield Tigers, who have faced the top three teams in the conference. They are 0-3 in the league. And tomorrow night, I was supposed to be heading on the bus over west to Chippewa Falls. Chippewa Falls, the number 2 ranked team in the state. The Warriors were supposed to play over there, but we're not going to go on the road tomorrow night. That game has been postponed. Hopefully, it'll be played sometime in early to middle January. But for Wausau West, they were so busy. They were playing a lot of hockey games. They have not played since last Tuesday night. They'll be back in action for 3 games in 3 days next week at the Showdown in Titletown, playing some really good competition. They'll take on the number 1 ranked team in Division II, Fond du Lac St. Mary Springs, coming up on Wednesday of next week. They'll take on a good Middleton squad, and they'll take on an always tough Verona's team on Friday. So 3 great opportunities. You talk about holiday tournaments. That Showdown in Titletown is always fun. I'll be heading over there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll be coming back on Wednesday just to make sure I talk to you on Wednesday night on this program. But for Wausau West, disappointing not to get those 2 great challenges, but don't have to wait too long to get more challenges for the Warriors, who schedule so very well.
And from watching them, covering them throughout the season, heading into knowing what you know about this team and what they're going to experience over at that hockey tournament, what's going to be a good measure that they've had a successful tournament? I mean, because you're playing good teams, how are they going to stand up, I guess?
It's going to be interesting. It really is. I mean, there's not one game you can say, boy, they're going to win that one for sure. So
let me ask you this then. Does this downtime where because sometimes on those snow nights too, you don't get anything. You don't get a game or a practice. Right. So just missing out on a couple of these bigger conference games, does that put them at a disadvantage? Will they be okay heading in there? Because you can't get to keep the same level of competition or competitiveness.
The thing about the Stevens Point makeup on, I think, the 3rd of January is after next week, they had 2 weeks scheduled off because they had this very busy start, and they were scheduled to have their break between next Friday and then 2 weeks after that. So basically 2 full weeks off. So it actually might, in the end, work out in a sense where they have it broken up a little bit with that Stevens Point game the first week of January, and then a little time off again before the real big push towards the postseason playoffs. So again, it will be interesting. Stevens Point looking very solid. They were very impressive against DC Everest last night. Spash West. I think Wisconsin Rapids also has that potential when they face West again over in Rapids, and their 2 meetings with Stevens Point to be a bit of a spoiler in that conference. Also wanted to touch on, I had my first opportunity to see the Central Wisconsin Storm on Saturday night, and they were very impressive. I mean, they defeated the Eau Claire area Stars 7-0. Gabby Heiser had a hat trick, very impressive sophomore for the Storm. The thing about it was they had lost a couple of games. They had struggled offensively a little bit, and it was not the smoothest start to the season. I mean, they're still doing fine, number 3 ranked in the state. But there were some question marks. Not what I saw. That looked like a team that's going to be a handful for anybody else. Again, they have great goaltending. They got some players that can light the lamp. They look like the Storm to me. So, again, I was very impressed with what I saw Saturday.
Are they headed anywhere for their Christmas break? Or did they have a because obviously they've done very well or exceptionally well over the years for not having a conference affiliation. Yeah. You know, they go out and they have to create their level of difficulty in their schedule, and they do very well. Like you said, things are coming together for them after a little bit difficult start. So where do they head?
They are heading to Madison next week. They'll play in a tournament down in Madison next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, again, they'll be challenged. There's some good teams down there as well. They were supposed to play Hudson tomorrow night over in Hudson, which is always a great challenge as well. That's been rescheduled for January the 3rd as well. So between the tournament in Madison next week and then Hudson on the 3rd, it's going to be some challenging games. And as you said, I think it is a big challenge when you don't have a conference. I do think that it helps a team to have that focus in these conference games, a goal within the season to win a conference championship. For the Storm, it's all about getting ready for the playoffs. It really is, and I think they know how to handle it. But at the same time, it does make it, I think, a little bit more difficult at times to keep that focus for what is a long winter sports season.
Well, and you got to give them props because the way they there's not really there's no break. Yeah, there's no break in their schedule. It's nonstop getting up for every game, even because sometimes when you can get within a conference, you can get a game or sometimes you might play somebody non-conference where you're like, yeah, we're just going to work on our stuff, but we're going to be okay. And that's, I think, takes a definite mental edge that coaches and players both have to focus on to say every game is a big deal and it's getting us ready for the end. And at the same time, as much as it kind of hurts to not have that conference affiliation, which they just aren't able to get based on the way the hockey runs.
Absolutely. We got to take another quick break. We're going to come back, talk some more about some holiday tournaments. That's what basically some of these teams, there's a break in the conference now until the start of the new year. We're going to see some holiday tournaments coming up. There was some conference activity scheduled for tomorrow that, again, if it hasn't been postponed, it's going to be postponed, I would say. So we'll look ahead to next week's holiday tournaments as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like any broadcasts coming up over the next few days with our postponements for tomorrow. Not much activity going on Friday. Then back into it next week. Monday's basically quiet, but then we have some activity starting Tuesday. And then Rarity, a Wednesday with a lot of activity, actually, in both basketball and hockey going into next week. Let's look ahead. Let's look at the boys' basketball schedules, starting with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. The games tomorrow that were scheduled, Lakeland and Wausau East. We heard from Coach Garrett. They'll try to reschedule that. There was a conference game actually scheduled with Wisconsin Rapids and Wausau West. The Warriors, again, struggling. They may not be too disappointed when you're not going well to maybe get a little time now with the holidays, get back. They have a tournament next week. They'll be traveling to Menominee, playing games against Menominee and River Falls Tuesday and Wednesday. I imagine for a school like West right now, who struggled just a little bit recently, a chance to reset, play a couple of teams from outside the area next week, and try to get that rhythm again.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the holiday tournaments is you can overanalyze what you need to work on and really double check that, get a little get extra practice reps in on that stuff. And I think it gives you some breathability because it's, that where you're trying to vest yourself into finishing really well and respectable in your conference. It gives you a break from that to go test the waters a little bit and see what your team's made of and if they can do the things that you want them to do as a coach.
DC Everest next week, they head to the eastern part of the state. They'll play at Appleton East, who's been a pretty good program in recent years, on Tuesday of next week. And then they play at Green Bay Southwest on Wednesday. Everest has played over on the eastern part of the state quite a bit so far this year.
Yeah, I think, they look like they want to be one of those teams that, because that's a lot of times when we talk about when Central Wisconsin teams are getting knocked out, it's coming from a lot of times from the eastern part of the state. So I think to go over there and test the waters and see what it is so that you're ready for when those playoffs rolls around is a big deal. And a couple non-conference games at holiday time is a perfect time to do that.
Marshfield gets an opportunity next Wednesday and Thursday at the Wisconsin Boys Basketball Yearbook Shootout. They take on Janesville Parker next Wednesday, and it's an honor to be asked to do that.
I think that's a big deal when if it's Mark Miller calling you personally himself or somebody from the yearbook staff trying to
his secretary.
Yeah, trying to set that up. It's an entitlement thing that you get asked that they want to see you showcase your program. So you number one, it's cool to be asked. Number two, you want to turn around and play well because it's you want respect. And I think that's an ongoing theme is to have your high school program get respect from the central part of the state here with the rest of the state.
Great Northern Conference. Tomorrow, actually, Mosinee was having an interesting game in Stratford. That's always a fun game because that's one that I'm sure they'll try to reschedule. But as we look forward to next week, Mosinee will be participating at the Green Bay Preble tournament. They'll take on Kingdom Prep Lutheran. Isn't that who Everest played earlier this season?
I can't remember if they won.
I think Everest did win that one, and then they lost to Oshkosh North the second day.
It was a split.
But that obviously will be a challenge for Mosinee at that Preble tournament. Medford will be at the Sheboygan North tournament. They take on Brookfield Academy. It's another, again, solid tournament. And Northern Pines will have a non-conference game at Marinette next Wednesday. So the big three all in action next Wednesday.
Yeah, and I think again, I don't know where Marinette stands. I would like to think Northern Pines is going to beat them. But for Mosinee and Medford, getting out there and testing a different area, I think that's cool and getting those different parts of the states. And I'm like you with the postponement. When I saw Mosinee and Stratford, just to kind of see where the different conference stand against each other. I think it's kind of cool when you get that cross-conference rivalry going.
Marywood South next Tuesday. Edgar will take on a school that I don't think I've ever mentioned on this program over the years. They take on Audubon Technology.
Yeah, please. Did you do any more? I didn't. I saw that, and then I had to go on to my next notes, and I'm like, "Where is? I've never heard of this place. Is it in the state?
I don't know.
Sorry, you just said.
I have no idea. It's like it's at the Port Washington tournament, but Edgar takes on Audubon Technology.
I'm looking that up right after.
I know. I should. I wish I had more time. I should have. Did a little research, but can you imagine what Edgar is trying to do in terms of getting research, figure out, what conference they're playing in? I can't imagine they're in the state of Wisconsin. They must be outside the state. Again,
we're guessing.
Next week we'll have a report next week. Next Wednesday, Assumption and Pacelli, old CWCC matchup. That's at the Century Classic at UWSP. And also, Auburndale has their annual tournament. They'll take on Augusta in the first round next Wednesday. So, Century Classic's always a good one.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough because they try to bring in different teams from the area, and usually they have their point teams, Amherst teams that are local that'll draw people in. So we got asked. We were lucky enough to get asked to play a couple times, but it's a great community event. I mean, they raise money for your program that they donate to you if you play in it, which was kind of cool. And as well as the matchups that they set. You get to see some teams that you might not see till playoffs. You get to see a good non-conference opponent usually. And I think it's cool the way they have this one set that it's from the old Catholic School Conference, Assumption versus Pacelli.
Marywood North, next Tuesday, Thorpe at Athens. Athens has been playing very well. Abbotsford at Spencer. Shawamigan takes on Luck at the McDonald tourney. So not much in terms of going on with the Marywood North, but you see a couple of those schools schedule a non-conference game. Not in a tournament. They still didn't want to have, I think, a full 2 weeks between games.
Yeah, and I think it's Coach Garrett brought it up where it's kind of nice to not sit dormant. You want to squeeze some game action in here when you can. And actually, I would say some of these teams are probably happy that they have that tournament action come out, or 1 or 2 non-conference games over the Christmas break, especially if they've lost something within these next 2 days on Thursday, Friday, if they're playing yet, to keep their game schedules rolling.
Real quick let's finish off the tournament aspect. Wisconsin Valley Lutheran will be in the Elko tournament starting next Wednesday. But any comments on that before I ask you a question?
Well, I guess for Wisconsin Valley Lutheran, it's they're playing at schools their size and something that's competitive, something that's not too far away, because especially those schools, there's a whole other unique situation where sometimes for the population of the student body of Northern Lutheran, Wisconsin Valley, they have some kids that drive some pretty far distances to go to those schools. So to be able to get them to a closer tournament, get out of the area just a little bit, you probably don't want to be going too far. So I think a good sized tournament for Coach Warner Gross and his team to get some nice wins there.
I don't know. Does it seem like there's not as many holiday tournaments as there used to be?
I think no. Yeah, right. I don't think we're seeing as many local schools host them. Like in the Merriwood, take the Merriwood.
I don't even know generally. I mean, it just
well,
feels
Stratford still has one. Auburndale still has one.
Still got the Century.
Yeah, I think does Marathon lie dormant?
Marathon plays a single game next Thursday against Spencer.
Because they used to host one.
Right.
But I think you're seeing, it's either, there's probably, in our area at least, I don't think there's as many, and that's why teams are going over to the eastern side of the state. Some of them are lucky enough, because I think is Newman playing in that yearbook one again?
Yes, they
play
are.
Milwaukee Juno.
Geez, where did I not? Where did I skip?
Well,
I skipped the page.
I was watching for you.
Yeah, they are. That's again a big honor for Newman Catholic playing 2 games next week.
So I think you're seeing teams. You don't get the Century Clax has always been one that's been around forever, and that's a nice one to be in. But going to just some different parts of the state to test things, they've done. The border battles come across just because, again, like you said, there's not as many tournaments going on, for whatever reason. So I think that there's. But again, we could maybe hit on this at the end if we want. Talked about either the games I've been fortunate enough to view and the ones you've covered and you've been in the gym. And there's these big games coming up, and there's not huge. The gym is not exploding with attendance, which we can hit on later.
Let's talk about first the games on the girls' side. Not a lot, really, in the next week or so. For teams in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, Wausau East takes on Newman Catholic next Tuesday night. Second meeting of the season between those teams. Next Tuesday's game will be broadcast right here on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. For Wausau East, they've been struggling lately, and it just feels like they need something good to happen. And I think for Newman Catholic as well, it's an opportunity for the Cardinals to try and earn another win, get back over 500 after that tough loss against Rosholt.
Well, with the East girls, it was just the scores. Merrill beat them 48-72 or 46-72, and they Marshfield beat them 82-32. So it's just been difficult. I think. They were supposed to have Lakeland on Thursday, so it wasn't.
I saw that, and it's almost like I think of all the games, you say, "Boy, I'm really glad." I mean, I'm really sad that this one has been postponed. That one I don't know what anybody gets out of that game.
I mean, I think they're going to look to come out and try to be competitive. That's going to be their goal, is to obviously win the game, but just be competitive and keep these scores closer. For Newman, they're losing the game tomorrow against Marathon, and they're going to want their bounce back one, which will be the East game. Go out, play well, get some things adjusted from the Rosholt loss, and get that W hopefully against East.
Also, next Wednesday, a number of Valley girls teams in action. Marshfield hosts their annual event. It's not a tournament per se. It's a kind of a wraparound where Wausau West always seems to be there. Hudson takes on Marshfield and Wausau West against Superior. Then West will take on Hudson next Thursday, Marshfield against Superior. But it's always good to see a couple of Wisconsin Valley Conference teams take on a couple of Big Rivers Conference teams. And usually these teams are in the same tournament bracket as well. So it adds a little significance as well, even though it's not a tournament per se.
Well, Marshfield has a pretty good reputation for the games they've run down there. I remember when Coach Weinkoff was at Newman, and they were always going there. That was their Christmas trip every time they wanted to go there. It was only 45 minutes away.
Then Newman was replaced by Tom Weinkoff in Wausau West.
Right. But that's what I'm getting. So he knows the value of just getting into that building during Christmas time to play a couple good non-conference opponents. So I think the Marshfield one will be good. I'm trying to see. Spash will be in the Century Classic, I would imagine.
Rapids, Spash against Greenfield in the first round of the Century on Wednesday. Rapids takes on Fond du Lac in the Century Classic on Wednesday. Merrill is at what's called the Elmwood Classic, taking on Augusta next Wednesday. So these teams in the Valley staying active. And I think for Wausau West, those 2 games in Marshfield are significant. They need to, I think, start to play like we expected them to play this season.
Well, especially if anytime you get that injured player that carries a significant amount of time and a consistent amount of weight with your team, and you can get them back, there's transition for the team and the coaching staff at the same time, because people have to step up. Then they have to get back into the motif of what's everybody's role. So there could be, sometimes that will go totally smooth, and there could be a choppiness. I mean, Newman's a good example of that. Mason Prey was out against Auburndale, and obviously he would help he helps them tremendously when he's on the court, even though Newman's good yet. And then he pops back in Marathon and helps out. I mean, those are things that you got to keep blending that. And then when something gets taken away, you got to plug the holes and keep getting. It's just a big chess match. So for West, I think that is significant if they're at full strength to get it rolling in the direction they want it to go.
couple of good challenges for GNC girls. Lakeland is taking on Aquinas in the Watertown Holiday Tournament next Wednesday. Aquinas has been a fantastic girls basketball program. We know what Lakeland is. Mosinee is participating in the Auburndale Tournament against Auburndale next Wednesday as well. So those are big challenges.
Yeah, I think for Lakeland, like we said, that they're going to, if you wanted to take a strong bet, they're going to have an unblemished record in that conference probably by the end of the season. So for them to go out in these non-conference games and fight against those good teams, which with Aquinas being one of them, is going to be a big deal to continue to strengthen their play and continue to strengthen their team as they get ready for a playoff run. And for Mosinee to go down and get that great Northern Merriwood Conference rivalry a little bit, I think, against an Auburndale team that also I think that's a good thing for them to play and kind of get in front of home, because they've taken a couple losses that have been a little tougher and blemished their record. So I think for both those programs, it'll be a good game.
And Marathon takes on Lodi in Watoma next Tuesday. And Edgar is also in the Century Classic against Amherst for teams in the Merriwood South. So, again, pretty quiet.
And I think my notes are right. I'm not sure if does Assumption play or Assumption host, or no, Rhinelander hosts Assumption.
That's supposed to be tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow?
Yeah.
See, I had Tuesday, and that's why I was checking so I said I'm not sure if my notes are right.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, teams to challenge themselves and play against some people outside their areas is a good deal over Christmas.
We got a little more than 3 minutes, so it's obviously time for Jeff Gress and his big stack of different issues going on.
One piece of paper back in front
in high school basketball.
Well,
you kind of mentioned it. I think
I'll toss it to you because you're out there more than I have. You get people that are very supportive of programs. They support their kids, their alumni, whatever they are. So you do have a great support system, I think. But we've seen at some of these bigger games so far that you'd think be hard to find a seat or be so noisy that you think there are 1,000 people there, and it's maybe, I don't know, for lack of a better way to describe it, a little disappointing that there hasn't been a full house on some of these big games early on. Reasons why? What do you think?
Well, there's a couple of different reasons why. I think it's been something that's been happening for a number of years, number one. Number two, during the pandemic, everybody started screaming and screaming for those video streams. And everybody wants those video streams. Well, you got those video streams. People can sit at home and watch. And, I guess I think that's got to be a factor. Wouldn't it be a factor?
Well, for the family member that can't make it there, for the diehard fan, it's just not able to, whether, take it for a number of reasons. The bleachers, it's too hard to sit for that long, whatever it might be, too hard to sit for that long.
But do you agree that it is a factor?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree that's taken away from it, because it's a convenience. That's much easier to...
Don't have to pay.
Yep. Get home.
Even though it's such a cheap...
But let's just say you get home from a busy day and you're like, I really want to watch, but I'm going to just lean back in my chair here and click a button. Yeah, it's all right there for you. Where I think it's the job of us as stern fans to get out and watch that when we can is the authenticity of being at the game. I liken it as a coach that I would much rather not have a videotape and go sit and watch the game when I was scouting.
Right.
If I could be live in the stands, I got such a better vibe for not only the speed of the game, the appreciation of the athleticism, and for the hard work and effort put in by both the players and coaches. It just
lose something watching.
Gave it validity to me.
I watch streams. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same.
Yeah.
The game is completely different when you're in the gym.
Right. Well, you got to hear sneakers squeaking. You got to hear that unruly fan. You got to hear, even if you're close enough to the action where you can hear exactly what coaches and players are saying. It just brings that. It's like, it's like more people being mic'd up. You're going to get a better feel for what's going on. And I just think you get out to the games whenever you can, and especially the big ones. When the two teams that are top of the conference playing, or two teams that are from other areas coming to do that big slugfest, that you got to get out there and watch. So hopefully over Christmas everybody can make amends for that.
We'll be back next week. Have yourselves a very Merry Christmas, and thanks for joining us as we continue in 2022 the Big High School Sports Show here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230 WXCO.